Director-General at Treasury, Dondo Mogajane. Director-General, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. Again, we've seen some of those metrics on screen there. It's not the best picture we would want to see, but the Finance Minister today warning again that we could hit a sovereign debt crisis, and he's used that word several times. Director-General, who exactly is he warning, and what do we do about it?
I think thank you very much for having me on your show. Look, he is warning all of us, both in government, both in civil society, both in labor and business. He's saying to South Africans, we have to note that we are heading for crisis. And I think all he's saying is that if we have to make decisions in our own quarters in these 4 different network constituencies, let's do the right thing and let's decide on the right things. If we give each other certain responsibilities, let's do them, including those of his colleagues and us in government. Let's do it. If it's about saying we're going to implement structural reforms, and it's within our space and our responsibilities and mandates, let's do it, and let's do it urgently. I think it's a clarion call for action, and he's on the right track. So I think it's a call on all of us.
Yeah, and he's gone so far as to say that he thinks what is required here is some sort of psychological assistance, because many in government and in the rest of the constituencies are not getting it. Director-General, let me ask you this. 40 billion rand taxes in the next 4 years. What taxes are we hiking here? What are we looking at?
Oh, yeah, I have to remind you and many South Africans out there that we make tax announcements in February every year. What we do as a medium-term budget policy like this, we give indicative amounts and targets. And then we don't necessarily spell out that we are going to increase that tax or this tax. So I think maybe, allow us to just go through to February, because that's when the market expects us to make tax announcements. We don't normally do it this time of the year. But for now, just to indicate, there are certain taxes that would have included in over the 3 years in February, because we give a 3-year number. So when we add those, including what necessarily will be shortfalls, that's what we're indicating at this point. But the actual tax categories that are going to be impacted, we can only announce that in February.
The other issue is the public sector wage bill. Now, we've seen much of the expenditure cuts that government hopes to implement is resting on the pillar that we get this right. Again, we still have a court battle this year on this year's cuts on that wage bill. How is the process looking going forward? Because the finance minister, when asked today, simply said, well, look, he can't speed that up or say much about it because it really rests with the Department of Public Service and Administration. How far and quick can we get that done?
No, I think that's a delicate area, and he was right. He was right that the Minister of Public Enterprises is leading government's efforts in engaging with labor. But you will note that at the beginning of the year, in January, I, on behalf of the state, filed in, an affidavit to the court, whereby, as Director-General of the Treasury, I said, we cannot afford even the final year of the previous wage deal. By simply saying it's unaffordable, we don't have the money for it, and that we request labor to consider this. And obviously we had to go to the court, and the issue, the matter is currently in discussion in the court system. But also, not only that, in terms of affordability of the last year, but we also say moving forward, this is going to be unaffordable. And the point that we're making is that in the last few years, real increases have been on average 7% around the wage bill increases. So we are engaging with labor through the Minister of Public Enterprise, and we don't want to preempt the discussions and that's why in that context the Minister was saying it's not his domain, but you don't want to preempt the discussions. We want to respect that engagement, and you want labor to understand and maybe say, understand the predicament that we're in, and maybe hopefully we'll be reaching each other in terms of, agreeing and be on the same page, because currently, as you can imagine, we are not, and the Minister of Public Service and Administration is leading that effort.
DG, before I let you go, I want to talk about this 2 billion rand loan asked for by, there was dollars asked for by, from South Africa, from the World Bank. I mean, the finance minister today is saying he sees this as a less probability because discussions are not as easy as one would think. And it's interesting that this is not COVID-19 related. Where exactly do we stand with the World Bank on this loan?
No, the World Bank conversation is ongoing. I mean, interesting enough, today in the World Bank system in Washington, the Operations Committee of the World Bank gave a signal, a go-ahead in their own process. I'm not even talking, because remember in the World Bank, the country office, South Africa, will talk to the operations center in the banking system. So the first step of saying we engage with our is going on. So it's early stages now in terms of that amount. And there's a rumor out there, I'm not kill it right now, Devan, that says the World Bank is saying something like we have to cut this and cut that and wages. No, none of that. The discussions are starting. The principles are being laid out clearly, and we're looking forward to actually engaging further. And if we are not going to agree broadly with the World Bank, we'll come back and say, no, we didn't agree on a deal. Sorry. If we agree, we'll again come back to South Africans and say yes. So I think it's early stages in terms of the World Bank. And why do we go to the World Bank? You know, we've said it with the IMF. We said it today. The Minister of Finance in Parliament said we are going to these institutions or DFIs, NDBs, etc., because it's cheap. Our interest cost is come down in terms, if you look at the numbers, by 3 billion in terms of the quantum, because we are getting some loans cheaper. And I guess let's allow ourselves from a cash management point of view to actually, and also look at the implications. If there's cheap money out there, as I said previously, we'll get it, but we'll have to be careful, obviously, and as we said with the IMF loan, we are not going to sell the sovereignty of the state. We'll keep that intact, and we're not going to be irresponsible as we engage with the World Bank or any other. He did say today that the NDB, New Development Bank, which is the BRICS Bank, in short, they've indicated that they're prepared to give us another $1 billion. Again, engagements and conversations are ongoing, and wherever it's cheap and it's affordable and the terms are in agreement, they're in line with the broader policy framework of the South African state, we'll go for it. And I think that conversation, like we do every day of our lives, we engage, we took to bondholders, investors, people who buy bonds on a daily basis. We engage and we enter negotiations and an agreement on an ongoing basis. So the World Bank loan is the same here. Discussions are at an early stage, but I know in the World Bank system, it's getting traction because the first signs of approval in the systems are ongoing.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. We're going to have to leave it there. Time is against us. Thanks very much indeed. Dondo Mogajane there, the Director-General at the Treasury.